Anchor of the week.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Anchor of the Week, where you do not have to agree with us to be friends with us. As you can tell, we have, maybe not, I forget that people listen and don't watch necessarily all the time, but it's just me and Jetson today hosting.
Hosting?
He's hosting with me. I'm hosting. Yeah,
I
Jetty.
thought I was just here.
Jetty, I feel like this is the official announcement of you helping and joining the team officially.
Great.
Yeah, hosting with me. But we also have our lovely friend, Minha. Hello. I already said this off camera, but I love your shoes today, and I just want everyone. I don't know if you can even see them.
Oh my gosh!
But
don't see.
No.
I love it. They're adorable. But yeah, so we're here to have a conversation about anything and everything. But we've got a couple ideas that we wanted to start from and kind of launch ourselves into. But I know one of the conversations that we had talked about was something between the two of you, if I'm not correct.
Well, it was a few of us.
Okay.
But
okay.
Yeah,
but
she just showed up and started talking about inspiration one morning, and it inspired me.
Hey, inspiration. What was the conversation? Where did that?
You just started asking us all what we were inspired by, and it was so random, but actually, I appreciated it because, I don't know.
You need, yeah. I mean,
got
it's
you thinking about it.
It is good to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But what, I don't know, if we just want to jump right into it, what inspires you? Either of you can answer. Because now I'm thinking about it, but.
You go first.
Oh my gosh. Right off the bat. What inspires me? I don't know. I don't even know what I said when it came up, because I've just been thinking about what inspiration even is.
That's
because I googled it.
And
it was just a moment. It was almost like a moment of excitement or activity in your brain, or just when something excites you or gets you motivated.
Well, that's yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I guess that for me would be just when people are not doing what they love, but doing what they're passionate about and actually taking action with it. I think that's why I love local businesses and when they really care and they want to do it well.
Yeah.
Something about that inspires me, and I don't know why. It's not because it's I love entrepreneurship necessarily. I just when I see people in their know what they like and know what's important to them, and they take action with it.
Yeah, pursuing it and investing in it. Yeah, 100%.
And inviting other people into it.
I agree.
I think that inspires me.
I think I also feel inspiration can come in the most random of ways as well, and I think it can be different depending on the thing. But anyway, I think before we dive completely into this, because I want to, I also want to introduce Minha, because I feel I realized I didn't really get to I was just hey, it's Minha, let's talk about inspiration. But Minha, I don't know how long I've known you, actually, now that I think about it. It's been a couple of years. 3 years?
I first joined in 2021.
Our church, yes, in 2021. I was home in 21.
Yeah.
So I think it was 22 that we officially met, probably.
Yeah.
Anyway, but tell us about maybe just a little bit of your journey of being in London, because I feel you have a really cool story. But maybe
I'll give you a short summary.
Yeah, just a little snippet of it.
Snippets. Okay, so I started university in London in 2021. And during that time, I was church hopping to find a church.
Okay.
And actually, it was Natalia, our other very close friend,
Great
who was
friend.
also in my same foundation year.
Oh, yes.
Yes, so I go to fashion university.
At UAL, right?
Yeah. And then we found out that we were the same age, and I'm why are you the same age as me? Everyone else is 4 years younger or 3 years younger. And then I found out and then all this happened, and I found out she was, in this church, and I was
Join the church.
And I came to the church. Back then it was in the Odeon.
Wow.
Crazy.
OG.
And then I still remember walking in, and I was just praying. I was because I was searching for a church.
Yeah.
And I felt I was this is it.
Oh.
So since then I stuck.
I love that. I love that so much. For people who don't know, Natalia is Josiah's wife. Just a little universe of the podcast, so everyone has connections. But that's super sick. So remind me what you were studying at UAL. I know fashion
Mm-hmm.
as the broad term,
So
but like
first year was foundation, so it was international preparation for fashion for international students only.
okay.
And from then I went into BA undergrad women's wear, fashion design and technology women's wear.
Nice.
And so I studied 1 year of that, and then this is my second year of gap year. So
Hey, that's okay. That's absolutely. I didn't even go to college, so I can't even say anything.
Constant gap year.
I live in
Gap
gap
life.
year. I live in gap life.
at least you're filled with the Holy Spirit. So.
Amen, yeah. I love that. So, okay, well, now to, I guess, bring it back into inspiration. We're all artists, different mediums here. But, like, what do you find inspiration in? Maybe just, let's start with fashion, like when you're creating things or when you were in school or even now. What does that look like for you?
Okay, I also Googled the definition, like very recently when I realized I had to come for the podcast. And I remember it being, like, there's two meanings of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll paraphrase it.
Yeah.
The first one is mental, like, stimulus, a feeling to do something or,
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first one. And the second one is quite interesting because it's like breathing in something. So like a physical inspiration of like taking in breath, which I think is quite relatable, like both those definitions. Yeah. And I remember your conversation because that day when I
had asked the group,
I asked Alyssa first, which is another very amazing
good
friend. And I was like, what inspires you, blah, blah. And then she said, I remember her answer clearly. She was like, God. And then almost instantly, I was like, that's a cop-out answer. But that's so not a cop-out answer if you think about it. Like, you know what I mean?
I agree.
And what you said about how when we see people who are so passionate about, it doesn't have to be their calling in terms of like Christians, even if it's like non-Christians, you see their craft and like how they've dedicated their whole lives into something. When I think of, I love football, and when I think of football players, it's like they have
I get inspired,
all their life, to the T of like what they eat, how they sleep, and and there's so much respect in that, in someone doing something to this excellence. But I think recently I had this like thought, I think we have that respect and awe because, I'm gonna quote, I haven't finished the book yet.
Okay.
But it's a book called The Everlasting Man by G.K. Chesterton.
Okay,
and in the book they kind of deconstruct like evolution and like, creation. And it says that art is the signature of man because we're the only beings created by the creator that creates. And I think maybe we get that sense of awe and respect for people who are so zoned, like, in their creative spark constantly is because we have this DNA to create, and because we're made in the image of God. And in Genesis, we see from the first chapter of the Bible, we see our God creating.
God created,
So there's something in us that wants to create as well, whether that's like more in the field of art or like even other, spheres of society.
No, I love that. I think as well because I think about what Alyssa said about like God, like it's such a broad term, but at the same time, I feel very similarly. But I'm inspired obviously by my relationship with God, but also by what He's created. Like I'm not a nature girl. I can say that, people know that, but there's moments when I am in nature or when I see like, especially when I'm at the beach, like I love going to the beach and I love like elements of water when it comes to like waterfalls and just like crazy gorges, like all this kind of stuff, because I'm so inspired by the fact that like that was created, and I can see it and go, that is beautiful. And it makes me emotional every time. And it's honestly embarrassing where I'm like at the beach, just like everyone's vibing and I'm just like, God is so good. I'm like, they're like, you know what I mean? But no, I think, and that's obviously not just like nature itself, but that's just one aspect of God's creation. And so I think, coming back to what you were saying and what Jetson said, like seeing people who are like in it and who are not even necessarily creating, but who are passionate about something and they drive in it, like whether it's football, whether it's a small business or something, I can see that and go, that is inspiring, because I see that you, like in you, there's something that needs like that. Oh, like there's, you know, I forget, like the pursuit, you know, like that sort of thing. No, I totally agree. Were you gonna say something?
Yeah.
Sadie?
Well, like topics like inspiration, I feel like, and a lot of other topics are like so important to me because like they set us apart from just being, I don't know, like just an animal, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like we don't just live on instincts. Like there's something about inspiration that goes deeper than an instinct or even like feelings. It's just like we'll see something and we'll like take it in and we'll like, I can do something with that, or like this moves me. I want to create, I want to take action. And it's like not just practical, or it's not just functional, and like all those things that are things that just like point humanity in itself to like something greater. Like we were made for something more than just to like live and like die based off our instincts, or even just to survive. Anything that like points out that there's more to life than survival just is so important to me. And I'm just like, I'll always like cling to that, you know. I'm just like, okay, why is it there? Because I feel like if something's there, like it has a reason. So the fact that we can be inspired, it's like makes me ask, like, what is the reason for that? Like what is like the purpose of that? That's like it has a function, if that makes sense. You know, like it was like we can have that for a reason, you know.
I feel like Minha's got something to say.
We're talking about purpose. Recently, I went to the V&A by myself.
To where?
The Victoria and Albert Museum.
It's on my list to do, literally, on my holiday.
You haven't been there?
No, I haven't.
I think there's an exhibition still going on called the Great Mughals.
Okay.
It's amazing.
Okay.
I mean,
it's on my list, literally on my list to do of like being on holiday. I'm like, I need to go to this museum because I haven't been.
And when you walk in, spoiler, but it's so
spoiler on the museum.
I mean, like it's like so out there, so it's not even. But before you walk in, if you look up, okay, I'm paraphrasing again, but it says the excellence of art must consist in the full accomplishment of its purpose.
Oh man, you remember that word?
Yeah, that
word.
was verbatim and beautifully said.
You enunciated.
Yeah,
that.
she did. She said, "Let me pause for dramatic effect."
You meant every word.
And like, okay, just going on hype about Mughal art.
Yeah,
I think because I grew up in India, I just have appreciation for, like, you know, all of that. But I think in terms of inspiration, like, yes, we get inspired by nature, and because it's like, for us, it's a reflection of God's beauty in it.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about this the other day, how even when we look at artworks created by not necessarily Christians, still amazing and meticulous and so beautiful.
Yeah.
But I think it goes in line with what you said about how, as humans, we have this desire for eternity, right? Something that's like beyond our lifetime.
Yeah, exactly.
And after looking at that whole exhibition, I had this feeling of like, we're so ephemeral as humanity, but I think creation reflects our desire to pursue something eternal.
That's so good.
If
like, like a lasting.
Yeah, if you think about the Taj Mahal as well, it's like for a lover who passed away.
Yeah.
For something to be remembered for.
Yeah.
Forever.
Yeah. I literally toured St. Paul's the other day, and another place where I find a lot of inspiration, like museums, cathedrals, all this kind of stuff. But I remember I was walking in and all by my lonesome, just like looking up at the dome, and then went up the stairs to like the Whisper Gallery that's like at the top of the dome. And it's like you just sit there, you know, and you can see everything. And I didn't have the audio tour because I don't really like those, but I was like Googling like, okay, like I see all of these murals and these paintings up here, like what is happening, you know? And obviously it's St. Paul's Cathedral. And so at the top of the dome, all of in between the things is a bunch of murals of elements of Paul's life and his mission work, specifically referencing Acts, right? So it was like him with the serpent when he was on the island, him in prison, like all these different moments. And again, I was just like, this is so cool to think like that I believe it's Christopher Wren that was like the architect, for St. Paul's and like the vision that he had. And, you know, you can go in the basement and watch his whole journey of like creating, and you can see like one of his original acts that he used and like his staff that he used for all this sort of thing. And I was looking at it and I'm like, it's kind of incredible that people, like he had this thing that he wanted to make and dedicate to God. You know, I would hope it was, obviously it's a cathedral, but like this thing that he was so invested in the fact that it is lasting. And I got sad for a moment because I was looking at all of the tourists that were there, and there's a lot of people who were there just to be there, to say. And then again, maybe I'm assuming, you know, but like just witnessing how people are interacting with each other and being in this space, and who are just like taking pictures and like immediately walking away.
Just like get over it.
Yeah, literally they're like picture, and now I'm on to the next thing that I see. And I'm like, I'm at a point, and I just felt like the sadness of, are we even able to like take in the, I think, bits of like lasting, I don't know, I think what we make here is not going to be eternal, but like that kind of hope of like Christopher Wren made something that he wanted to last, that he wanted people to see. Are we even taking that in? Like, are we taking in his inspiration for this? You know? But yeah, I love what you said. That's beautiful. I can't wait to go to the V&A Museum. Oh my gosh.
It's amazing.
I'm excited. But yeah.
Another thing that I feel like is really cool about just inspiration in general is just like, if we were just like, it usually comes from the people in our lives and the things we've lived. And it's like, it's something like we take in and then like breathe out almost.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like something that keeps us from being an island or like isolated.
Mm-hmm.
Like whether that's with people or what, like our relationships or with God. But it's just like the way we get inspiration from others, the way we get inspiration from our lives. Like there's so much in like one life that can inspire them. Like I believe that so strongly. Like I feel like if you took a minute to just like sit on it and like think of all like the relationships in your life and like what you have and the value you have, like there's enough to inspire so much, you know. But that's not just like from us, that's from like everything that's been invested into us by like people or like the purpose we were created for. I mean, that's just crazy. If you just take a minute and like be like, wow, there's enough in me to inspire so much. You know, like I feel like for me, just having my phone makes me feel like because I need to get inspiration from something else or like outsource it constantly. Or I'm just like, I'm not feeling very inspired, because it's like, that's the thing. I think we've reduced inspiration to like a feeling when it's like there's so much that could inspire what we do. But it's just like we think we have to like wait for that moment of inspiration. Wait for the feeling of inspiration. So that's like when I read the Google definition, it was just like activity in the brain, and I'm just like, like I'm like, I think it's more than that, because you know, like TikTok like creates activity in the brain.
Dopamine release.
Like just constant dopamine rush. Like I don't think we should reduce inspiration to that. I think it can go a lot deeper.
I wonder. No, go ahead.
Yeah.
It's funny. I hate to say this, but like, do you think it's something that you almost have to choose to be inspired?
Probably. Like the thing is, if you realize that you have everything you need to be inspired, like
then
you're gonna
are in a state of inspiration. But you know, like in my head, because wow, I feel like I'm getting crazy, like mystical now. My brain is like whatever. But like we as humans have the gift and the ability to choose, you know. And so whether that's, you know, we say this all the time of like choose joy, like choose love, like you can choose to trust people, you can choose to, you know, live in this or live in this, like whatever. So it's almost like, for me, inspiration, like you can choose to be inspired, like you can choose to live in the state of inspiration. Instead of like a state of discontentment or a state of like apathy, you know, like I don't know. For me, that's like where my brain is going. I feel like it's something that we get to choose because we have that ability. But were you gonna say something, Minha?
Yeah, there was a thought. Try to unpack this as clearly as I can. But I think with inspiration, I was thinking about it for a few days.
Yeah.
I think we can be inspired, or more like the Google definition. I think it kind of does not talk about the spiritual aspect of inspiration, like mental stimulus, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if I'm not on TikTok, but like if you're on like reels or shorts, you can get inspired, but I think you have to kind of almost curate your environment and what you absorb or what you see or listen to, because whatever you're exposed to, you will in a way release it out.
Yeah.
Whether that's in form of art or, you know.
Yeah.
So I think it's the matter of like,
The drip.
making room.
Yeah.
But I just personally, a lot of the times I was really inspired was when I was still in God's presence.
Yeah.
Where I'm not exposed to like all this, you know, dopamine release and, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's when God kind of breathes in that inspiration. Yeah.
No, yeah. No, I love that. Because I feel like it's similar of like turning off everything. Like in that being like the literal of like your devices and whatever. But also like turning off, I think, sometimes your own thoughts or like your own, I don't know, your own noise, you know, to allow yourself to be inspired from God. And no, I agree. I remember back when I first came to London, I was working on a immersive experience show sort of thing, and it was a part of the project that I was working on in the school. So it's kind of like, you know, we had to have some kind of final project that I was doing, and of course, being a performer and performance artist, actress, whatever, I love devised theater. And so, you know, I was like, okay, well, that's what I want to do. I want to do that. And I had a bunch of ideas, and, you know, I had them written down, but I was just kind of like, it could be cool, but I don't know. And mind you, this was in the middle of COVID. So it was like theaters weren't open. Like you can't just like go and perform at a theater. Like it's not possible. So of course I'm trying to think of like ways around it. And I remember I was just like at one morning, like sitting with all these ideas being like, well, I don't know. And I'm like, maybe I should just pray about it. Who knows? Like maybe God has something to say. And I remember praying about it, and he gave me like this passage in Mark 5 of the bleeding woman and Jesus raising Jairus' daughter, right? The story of both of them having Jesus be interrupted by them, you know, and helping them in their different moments and their needs. And that story really resonated with me, but I had never thought of like taking my time with God into what I was making. You know, it was just kind of like I had created a divide between the two. And he like was just like, there's your story, like, you know. And honestly, like I think about that performance all the time, because I did a whole immersive performance in the house I was living in, and we transformed like the walls, and there was lights, and we had dancers and live music that we made, and you know, a monologue and all this kind of stuff. And it was basically like telling the story, and the audience got to walk through it. But it was one of those moments, and I think I've gone on to create other things that I know have been inspired from just talking with God and being inspired by the Bible, actually, of things from the Bible that I'm like, that's actually that's great, you know. And it's the greatest story, like I believe that, you know, the Bible is the greatest story ever told, and to take inspiration from it for different things is amazing. But yeah, I think that especially as Christian artists, like I think we can do so much when we just allow God to give us the inspiration, and that there shouldn't be a divide, but almost like he should be fueling the creativity in us, you know. So yeah, that's great.
I have this story when I was in Kona in Hawaii for my DTS, my discipleship training school.
Nice.
Before COVID hit. This is like a very I don't know how to describe it the way I experienced it, but there was this one night where we were out and with a bunch of my friends, and we had to go back to the Kona campus, and we had to get a taxi because it was a bit late. And then we got in the taxi, and we started talking to the taxi driver. And the Ohana campus, where we like worship,
Mm-hmm.
there's this big painting of these waves crashing in, and we found out in that conversation that he was the guy who painted that painting.
Your taxi driver.
Yeah,
Crazy.
I know, crazy. And then
What a coincidence. Wow.
he tells us his moment with God that like completely stuck with me afterwards. He told me one day he was like asking God, I think he was asking why he created the world, and God answered him saying, I just wanted to see my reflection.
Wow.
And if you look at Genesis, I think the most recent book I'm reading is We Who Wrestle with God by Jordan B. Peterson.
Okay.
Amazing book.
I'll have to write it down later. I'm going to get it
So
from
good.
you. Yeah.
And he kind of unpacks how when Genesis talks about water, how the earth was formless and like he was hovering over the face of water or something like that. It's like, what is that water when he hasn't created water yet? You know, what is that? And then he unpacks it in a way that he says it's like this void and like it's a potential that's unformed yet.
Wow.
And
Wow.
God literally creates order out of chaos.
Wow.
In that unformedness. Anyways, and so this taxi driver, going back to this
Yeah,
taxi
yeah.
driver, so he gets this revelation from God that like God wanted to see his reflection from his creation, and he was telling us how everything is mirrored, and how when art is the overflow of the intimacy with God, because when we walk with him, we grow closer to him, and we get to know him, and out of that intimacy we overflow and create things.
Wow.
And I was like, wow.
That's gorgeous.
Inspiration, like as beautiful as it is, can people be inspired? Like I feel like I've seen people be inspired to create something like possibly like dark or even like heavy,
Yeah.
So it's like, is inspiration inherently just a good thing, or is it just like something we have that can be turned like to the dark side of it,
Yeah.
It's kind of a question.
That is actually like a really good question. Because I mean, obviously there's not all art is Christian art, but I also love, I don't know, for me, like I see the truth maybe in almost every piece of art. I think I choose to, or like and I think even in the dark stuff, like there is darkness, like darkness is real. I don't think it has the power that we give it, but like, and I think, I don't know, my brain is just going to horror movies, for instance, right? Because there's a few horror movies that I've seen in my time. Like, I love horror movies. I like being scared, not gonna lie. I love it. It's kind of fun. It's exhilarating.
I'm not on your side. I hate
For
horror
me, it's like
movies.
roller coasters. Like, I love roller coasters, just that feeling of like, haha, like, oh my God. But there's,
Sign me up.
she's like, pass. But there's a few horror movies that I've seen in my time where I'm like, absolutely not. I will never watch that movie again. Hard pass. That was so dark. I feel like I'm leaving the theater feeling disgusting, feeling like I'm like fighting with something now.
Yeah.
But it's almost interesting because I then like I'm like, okay, well, there is this, I don't know, like we want to go down that route, but like, demonic thing that's real, it's very real, but it's like, what are you choosing to glorify, But anyway, coming back to the whole, like, I don't know, darkness or inspiration and the flip side of things, like, I think it is this, again, just verbally processing as I'm speaking, but like, there is still this sense of wanting to find eternity, right? Like that whole, like you said earlier, but it is almost like this, the opposite coin of, the opposite side of like the same coin, I don't know. That's just my first thoughts.
Like, in my head, what's coming to my head is just like, inspiration is just something very deep, kind of like, it's almost like your life is a lens, and it's kind of like the light pushing through the lens. So it's like, if you're inspired by like hate, then you're just gonna like see your life through a lens of hate, and you're gonna express that. Like, if hate is your inspiration, like some people like can probably do a lot and get a lot done
Yeah.
being inspired by hate or like vengeance.
I feel
or
like people
bitterness.
have, to be fair.
Like the amount of things that like we as people can do just out
Yeah.
of spite, like fueling us. But it's just like, what does it result in? It like multiplies spite.
Yeah.
So I think like there is a right thing to be inspired by, and there's a wrong thing to be inspired by.
Yeah.
And it's just like what you're being inspired by almost like is what you're multiplying like in the world. It's just like what you're bringing out of your life. So it's like, because not I'm gonna be a hater for a minute, but sometimes Christian art, I think, in like their attempt to only be inspired by good things, will only use safe imagery and like only do the most on the nose.
Yeah.
Like, look, guys, this is good, and you can tell because of it's a sunshine.
And everybody's wearing white.
And
like.
everyone's wearing white. So I don't think that's what being inspired like by, I don't know.
The good even.
The good
yeah.
looks like.
No,
I think it's
yeah, I
way
agree.
deeper. I think it's like
That's being fearful of the bad.
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's being fearful of the bad. Just like side note from Courtney over there. She wants to get on the mic. No.
Give her a mic.
But yeah, I feel like we need to be inspired by joy, but like, or love or truth, and like let that show up out of our lives.
Yeah.
So like we can even communicate the hard things about our life or the things that suck, but if we're being inspired by like truth,
Yeah.
it'll just come out in a way that's, I don't know, not as distorted
Right.
or won't like hurt people, you know?
Yeah.
Like we don't have to be scared about sharing the hard things about our life or like the sad things or the things that hurt us, but we need to be inspired by the right things.
Yeah.
Because if I'm just like, yeah, there's this hard thing I want to share, I want to express it through my art, and you're just currently so like hateful and bitter,
Right.
like that's gonna show up.
Yeah.
But if you've like let yourself heal and like, or you're doing things for the sake of truth or joy or peace, then you're gonna express something in a way like what's inspiring you is just so important to like what you're putting out into the world, you know?
And I also think what you put out into the world, like we have to take into account the fact that it's going to affect people.
Yeah.
Like if you're putting art in the world, it will have an impact on someone. And so if you're doing it from a very selfish place of I have all this hate, I have all this like anger, and I just want to put it in something, you know? Then
It's like, I'm gonna
Express myself.
right, exactly. Like I need to express myself. Then like in my brain, that's still very selfish because you have to know that what you're doing is going to affect, it's going to impact, and it will produce fruit that maybe isn't the most beneficial for the people who are receiving your art. You
But
know?
like, yeah, what about the people who just say, I need to be honest.
Oh gosh.
This is me.
Oh.
I think there's a time and place.
There
for
is a
that.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you don't want to share it to everyone.
It's true.
Because sometimes you do need to share your honest, like the hard things, you know, like, and it's okay to be mad and angry and sad.
It is okay.
It is okay. It's just
Yeah.
like, is it inspiring you? Is it like fueling
Yeah.
you?
What's the root of that?
Yeah. You know, is it
Interesting.
what gets you up in the morning?
If your hate
or
is
keeps
what,
you down in bed? I don't know.
oh my gosh, yeah. If your hate is what's getting you up in the morning, that is tough. That's so sad, actually. But there's probably like, I mean, yeah, there's definitely people in
that's
the
the
world
thing.
like
Like
that.
we can,
Yeah.
like it can fuel us if
Yeah.
we let it.
Wow.
I like what you said about glorifying. I think
Mm.
I think of two words when we in our conversation just now is purpose and glory. And I think yes, we can create art that's not necessarily visually bright, but it really depends who's getting the glory. And when you think about the imagery of like God's saints or his disciples in the Bible being like stoned, like cut in half, that's not pretty imagery. No, but it's
Jesus literally on the
yeah,
cross.
but
like,
he gets the glory.
Yeah.
And maybe in that light, we can kind of have more freedom to venture out our palette in what we express. And in terms of like creating something like out of hate or all of this, I think it comes down to having found your purpose in life and then orchestrating that purpose into a hierarchy of order and aligning your actions and walking in that.
Wow. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
actually so good.
Because you can get inspired by so many
Yeah.
things, and you can be all over the place, you know, creating this, creating that. But like, what's your main purpose in life? And I think the generic answer, which is the truth for, well, believers at least, is glorifying God. But then what? Like, what do you do?
Right.
Like, what's my
Purpose,
individual purpose? And I had this question that I was thinking about that I'm excited to
Please.
know what your thoughts are.
Shoot away.
Is, do you think we can create something original? Because you know how it, like the idea of like nothing new under the sun.
Yeah.
But, so do you think we can create something original?
Interesting.
See, my annoying brain just goes to, what's your definition of original?
Google
I'll always
what
go
does
back
Merriam-Webster
to the, I'll always
say?
go back to the, like, words are subjective, and then I'm just
true.
like, nothing is solid.
I think, wow. In my brain, I'm like, I think there's nothing new, but there's new interpretation. And like, and speaking of art specifically, right? Like, I think someone can be inspired by the same thing, right? But it's going to be even told, like perceived differently. So it's going to be then told differently. Like, I think about our friend Alec mentioned this the other day. Alec's a filmmaker, screenwriter, and we were talking about writing scripts, right? And like how it's so easy to be inspired by other movies, and you can take aspects of other movies and be like, oh God, that was already written. Or you can write a whole script and be like, someone's like, oh, actually there was a 1980s indie film that's that exact same story, you know? But something that Alex said that I love is like, okay, but it was never told by you. So you have to know that like you as an individual are an original, wonderful being that was created and made beautifully just who I am. Like I'm, like Jetson and I can have the exact same inspiration even and create the exact same thing, but it will be different.
Yeah.
Because him and I are made differently, you know? So in that sense, it's like, I think there's original interpretation of inspiration or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, there's just so much that goes into a single human being, whether it's just them physically, like the number of hairs on their head, or just like the lived experience they have. There will never be like two human beings who are exactly the same, just because that's how good God is. He's just, he brings order, but like not conformity. So it's just like every one of us is going to be completely different, you know? Like, and there's like structure, cause like we can only use what we have, but like down to our soul, we're all completely original, you know?
Yeah.
Like we can't like pull something out of nothing. We can only like use what God's given us. But like, I think just taking and using what he's given us, it's like, we're going to make something original. Yeah. And I think like the lie would be that it's all the same, or it doesn't matter, or like won't do anything.
Right.
You know, like I think that's a big lie from like the devil, is just like, someone's already done that before. That's overdone. That's overused. That's irrelevant, you know? But everything that like, and like, I loved what you said about like, we can be inspired all the time, but our purpose kind of like is what we organize our inspiration under. So
yeah, I love that.
as someone who gets inspired by everything, I just have to remember, it's just like, just because I like think I could, I don't know, be a barber, or I could be a painter, or I could like do this or that or this, and I'm just like, what is my purpose? Like, and I think going back to just what I was saying about like being original, like God has an original like purpose for all of us. I think there's a like overall purpose for all of us in life. Like there is a purpose to life, but then you go even more individual, and I think we all specifically have a purpose, you know?
And I think that's where, in realizing that you understand that you actually have a moral and spiritual responsibility in this life. Because you can, yes, the mantle can be put on someone else, but when you partner with God on that, only you can make the things you create. So I think that does put a lot of weight and responsibility in creating things.
What do you mean by the word mantle?
Like, if, for example, you believe that God has called you to a certain ministry, that typically looks like this, and you disobey him, he has many other people to, you know, swap you around, basically. Like a mantle
To move the
shifting.
mantle, yeah.
Just like God will get done what.
But
he wants to get done.
there's, I believe he has just joy in creating with us,
Yeah.
and us joining him in his work. So
I love all of that. It all comes back to purpose, right? Like knowing who you are and knowing your purpose, and in through that being able to, I don't know, to move in the way that God has created us to be, which is hilarious because I think Courtney and I literally mentioned that like a few episodes ago about like wanting ourselves, but also everyone to be able to walk in their God-given purpose and their God-given identity, Christian or not, like knowing who they are, you know. But yeah, I mean, I think we can start to wrap it up. Honestly, I love this conversation. I just like, we didn't really know. We were like, inspiration. That's where we're starting from. But like, I think it just amazing. I feel like I'm going to walk away thinking about a lot of this and hoping that, I don't know, everyone else does who's watching, who's listening, and Kaylee and Courtney behind the camera walking away feeling inspired. But yeah, any last thoughts that have, I don't know, last takeaways, last questions or whatever that we can just leave the audience with or leave ourselves with? If not, we can just sign off. But
I mean, okay, like coming into this, for some reason, it was really important that I didn't like script it out or like be like, what are my points I want to get through? I was literally just like, I have everything I need just in myself to actually like God's gonna use me with what I have. Yeah. Because that's what I mentioned before, constantly needing to outsource inspiration or like even like all I did was Google the definition and then I'm like, okay.
From there, God has given me.
From there, I am capable to have thoughts and words. And like in a way, it just forces me to trust that I do have a purpose. Yeah. Like me not over preparing, like it's preparation is good and important. But like for me, like coming into this, it was important for me to just trust that I could like bring something just as I am. Yeah. And like I think that had a lot to do with purpose and be knowing like what inspires me and like that's just I got it in here. Like, I got it in me.
No, yeah.
And you know,
I also love how we're three very different people, but like being able to even have this conversation and like, I don't know, piggyback off of things and to even be inspired to then say something else based on what someone else said.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
It's
like
amazing.
I let myself just be inspired by what the other person said.
Exactly. But honestly, thank you so much, Minha, for, I don't know, even starting this conversation however many weeks, months ago that was, or you were just asking the question, and you're a joy, and thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. Yes. But yeah, cool. You guys know that you can always follow us on social media, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify. Like us. Gosh, I hate that. I'm doing that.
Like us. Comment.
Please like it. No, I'm kidding. But if you did like the video, if you liked the episode, give it a thumbs up. We really appreciate it. But
give us a thumbs up.
Yeah, just in your house. Don't click it. Just as you're watching it, just give the thumbs up. But cool. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you real soon.